Welcome back. We are live once again for here with Aruba's 11AC Tech Field Day. And again, I'm Stephen Foskett, the organizer of Tech Field Day. I'm glad to have everybody here along with our fabulous independent Field Day delegates here at the table. Now we're going to hear from Mike Kail of Netflix. I think most of us are familiar with what Netflix does as a company, but I think you're going to talk about something slightly different, right? Okay, so you're not going to tell us how the video streaming works?
Not today.
Oh, okay. Well, so we're going to have a short presentation about how Mike is using Wi-Fi within Netflix. Then we're going to have some discussion afterwards. So I'm going to step out of the way for that, and you just let me know when you're ready to go for the Q&A.
Thanks, Stephen. So, Mike Kail, VP of IT Operations at Netflix, here to talk about how we use Wi-Fi for voice, video, as well as data. So, we're a 100% mobile culture. I myself don't have an office, a cube. I roam around our multiple buildings. I haven't used an Ethernet cable in I don't know how long. Our view is mobile really improves productivity. I want to be able to work anytime, anywhere, so it should be the same as your home, a coffee shop, or the Netflix office, courtyard, or anywhere within the wireless range. I also hope and expect us to be a cutting-edge technology leader and deploy that throughout the campus. And also expect the same to mobility, whether it's a mobile tablet, phone, or laptop. Here's some stats from last night when I was sitting in one of the conference rooms in our main building in Los Gatos. So this is where we've set the bar for overall broadband speed and Wi-Fi. So this is me connected to an Aruba access point doing a speed test. So roughly we get 150 to 220 meg down and 100 to 200 up. Another initiative we have is moving to a zero trust network. So I mentioned that I really want the office to appear as your home or a coffee shop, meaning it's open and we'll do the right thing behind the scenes to make sure that we're secure. So I've said on Twitter that identity is the new perimeter versus having the classic firewall, VPN, gateway, choke point. We've moved all devices to EAP TLS. And we're currently evaluating Aruba's ClearPass to do more strong authentication and seamless integration into the wireless. The other thing that Wi-Fi has to support as we become between Los Gatos, DC, and our Beverly Hills office is supporting video conferencing, whether it's Google Hangout, telepresence, life-size, Skype, choose your own application. We really want to do proper QoS and get the best throughput and experience possible. And this needs to work in some pretty high density locations. So as you can imagine, we have teams testing devices. We have a lab where there's a bunch of smart TVs, PlayStations, Xboxes. So there's a lot of competition for the space. We also are, as we deploy in other countries, we have the requirement to have presence via GRE tunnels in places like Brazil and Mexico to be able to test devices with that experience. We've been working closely with Aruba on a bunch of best practices around deploying a wireless framework. So, as I mentioned, we have dense RF coverage for voice and video. We need to be able to quickly identify and diagnose problems and resolve those using the various tools. We want to move to no manual configuration and look at adaptive radio management, and then be able, as I mentioned, prioritize video and audio traffic on the network. Throughout the organization, we're a metrics and data-driven culture, and I want metrics on all of our network health, as well as the zero trust and security. We also support, so you've heard of the BYOD movement. My philosophy is really support any device, especially the ones that run the Netflix application. So I want any device, no exceptions, be able to connect to the wireless network, test it, use it, come and go as you please. We're beta testing a few 802.11ac units, and hopefully we'll be deploying that by the end of the year. And we also have deployed some Aruba wrap for home users to either have presence in foreign countries to connect to the SSID, or also test devices and appear that they're in the same lab they are in the office. So once again, removing the perimeter of the network and allowing people to work anywhere, anytime. So, having said that, thanks everyone. We'll now open up to Q&A.
That was a quick presentation. Yeah. You weren't kidding.
I have a question. When you say support any device, no exceptions, how are you defining support there? Is it just support them getting on the network, or you actually have people supporting them if there's an issue? How far does support go in that case?
So I view IT as a service, so we really should support you getting any device onto the network. So whether it's the Kindle Fire that came out last fall, or a new iPad, the Samsung S4, if there's any problems, we should be able to fully diagnose it and get visibility into why it can't join.
Do you rely on things like Airwave to give you that information about the clients?
We do. So I've had some roaming problems specifically on my MacBook where it disassociates from an AP or ping-pongs back and forth. And we're able to use Airwave to determine the cause and figure out what to do.
So you don't actually spend a lot of time actually going in and diagnosing the actual client. You try to get the metrics from outside to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, it's very top-down view, so Airwave gives us a great tool to give that. So you don't have to have a roaming help desk person come track you down. We can get a lot of data, if not all of the data, and troubleshooting ability remotely.
Okay, cool.
How's your policy or thoughts on that, zero perimeter? How's that working out? Because we always get the security as the big key play, and people want to be able to extend their networks into their homes through remote access points and whatever methodology there. But then security gets concerned about, okay, we can't verify and validate who's actually sitting in front of the computer, so why do we extend it out there? And you guys have almost kind of taken the approach of, we don't really care, we just want you to get in, and we're going to trust that device by that TLS certificate. Is that kind of...
So given our culture, we hire people that we want to trust and do trust. So relying on a false sense of security or trying to be the police is never a good solution. So we haven't fully implemented Zero Trust yet, but that is the goal, is to provide that trustable environment with the proper audit logging and inspection in real time to determine if there is a problem. So if you have two devices, one shows up at your home geolocation and the other one's in Russia or China, we know there's most likely a problem and we can diagnose that.
So I'm interested by your statement, the identity is the new perimeter. There kind of matches some of my own independent work that I've been writing about and talking about recently, and so I'm kind of interested in how you're, as an organisation, actually define the identities. Is it down to individual user or device, or how are you formulating that set of identity and then formulating how they actually access the data as part of their jobs on your network?
Good question. So how I view it is, I want to be able to provision device certificates as well as user certificates. So if you lose your device, I can just revoke your device certificate and don't have to worry about your user certificate. Mm-hmm. Identity is the new perimeter because as I move applications to either SaaS or public cloud, using OneLogin as the single sign-on SAML provider and ultimately identity provider, there's no perimeter. So it doesn't matter where I'm at. I don't have to be behind some artificial firewall. Mm-hmm. I can access and authenticate from anywhere.
So you're using some sort of federated identity management for managing the SSO to all the different cloud sites and that as well?
So we tend to select SaaS providers that support the SAML spec. So you authenticate to OneLogin and then establish the SAML session from there.
Okay, I see. Cool.
I have a question from Twitter, and again, folks who are on Twitter watching this, just tweet at @sfoskett or @techfieldday, and I will relay your question. So, a question off of Twitter: what are the tools you're using to measure quality for voice and video?
So we're using currently Airwave and then a bunch of homegrown open source tools such as Cacti, MRTG, and the like. And we're in the process of evaluating the best practice to do that. So this is an ongoing initiative. And we don't have QoS implemented across the network fully yet. So that will be happening over the course of probably the next 3 to 4 months.
So you said that you were beta testing the AC access points. Do you have specific business use cases that you're thinking about deploying AC in the enterprise, or you think about migrating the entire enterprise to AC?
Once industry and Apple and PC providers fully support it, like I said, I want to be on the cutting edge. And so if you saw the speed test at 200 meg, I want to keep moving that up.
Cool.
Because there'll be a point where people aren't satisfied with that. There's always the need for more bandwidth,
Yes.
especially for some of our employees.
Does your network tend to have a lot of devices actually streaming video over it quite constantly?
Content operations, probably doing QC and QA on it is the most part, but overall it's not a constant stream, so I don't think there's a huge bandwidth influx or usage from just streaming content. It's more of testing the UI.
Okay.
And having 1,400 people accessing internet all the time and content.
I'd be interested in knowing how you're taking what you're learning from the enterprise space with your guys' own testing and correlating that into what's going to happen in a home environment. Because right now, you're limited to what, two simultaneous streams through Netflix, unless if you upgrade into that new family plan. So really, if I've got 2 iPhones, 2 tablets, or smaller screen devices, am I really pushing enough bandwidth through that I need to go to AC? And are you guys, how are you looking at from what am I doing in enterprise in the office? How is that going to correlate into the home, or is this more just we want to test to see what's going on in the office, not necessarily what's going to be at the end user's device in their house?
I strictly care about corporate technology in the office. And there's multiple benefits to AC besides just the throughput. So moving to the 5 gigahertz channel and supporting better mobility overall as I roam from office to office, building to building. Those are the big wins I view AC of.
Another question on Twitter. I'm not sure what they're looking for, but corporate issued devices. Do you have corporate issued devices?
Yeah, so when you join Netflix, you either put your device on our plan or we provision one that at your request.
So it's not all BYOD.
So there's a difference there. Corporate issued, yes. Corporate managed, no. So BYOD in the MDM space, no. BYOD in the access management, yes.
So you don't actually have a need for MDM, is that because you're issuing the devices?
I don't care about locking down the device, I care about access to the data. So I view that traditional MDM has come and gone.
Awesome.
So you're really not doing MDM then at all. It's basically all BYOD, whether it came from the corporate or whether it came from the Apple Store.
So I call it use any device.
Yeah.
And we secure access to the data and secure the data versus securing the device.
Wow, that's refreshing.
And putting handcuffs on employees to not do their job.
Yeah.
I think we have to promote that as a new acronym in the industry, UAD.
So one of our fellow delegates, George Stefanik, he asked, what percentage of Netflix employees are wired versus wireless only? I mean, you talk about the mobile cube environment, and not having the cube, you're just hoteling, going from wherever to wherever as you're walking around, whether it be a conference room. Are there people that are strictly on wired, or is it pretty much primarily your access medium is wireless?
I think there are some graphic designers that have iMacs that are probably hardwired, but Bobby, maybe you have a stat. I'd say under 1%.
So this really is sort of the new generation of client, isn't it?
There could be a few in accounting that have a dock that they keep hardwired and then they move, but their dock is hardwired.
Even for most of the users, if they take a laptop to a meeting, which is very common,
That's it's refreshing to hear because
You won't see Ethernet cables in our conference rooms for the most part, except for the ones still attached to our Polycom speakerphones.
Yeah. Wow. That's
I think that's awesome.
congratulate you for actually making it work because there's a lot of people that say they want to do that and then they roll it out and it fails and falls flat on their face because people are so used to where's that cable. I mean, we've sat in other vendor events where a guy actually reaches underneath the table, grabs the network cable and plugs it in, and this is a mobility event that he's plugging into and we're all just scratching our heads.
Honestly, until a couple of days ago when Aruba said this was a big surprise to people, I haven't even thought about it. Like, it's second nature to us now.
Well, I think part of that's it's attitude based. It's the data you're trying to protect, not the device.
Sure.
If you're not doing any sort of device management, no management at all, and you're just using identity to verify the person, what sort of methods are you using to protect the data?
So we're doing a bunch of, so everything has an audit log, and we're also implementing some correlation engines. So we know when somebody accesses data, we know who they access it at. So if you're using our single sign-on portal, those of us with admin privileges, if I assume the identity of someone else, I get an audit report on that. But ultimately it comes down to hiring people you really trust, and you trust them to do the right thing, and if they choose not to, you probably would have had an issue anyway, and this way we just take care of it at the time of breach.
Sorry, I'm getting buzzed like crazy here with questions. Another question. Since you guys are so Wi-Fi centric, since everything is going over Wi-Fi, what common problems do your users run into with Wi-Fi, and how do they troubleshoot it? Do you spend a lot of time troubleshooting? What do you do?
So when we rolled out Aruba, I think we had some placement problems, but overall, there haven't been very many help desk tickets at all about wireless Wi-Fi issues. So I think in some very dense areas where we have multiple SSIDs, I think there's some roaming problems, but that's typically on the client. And we can diagnose that, as I mentioned, with Airwave and figure out how to solve that. But overall, I don't think we've had a significant number of problems that's statistically meaningful.
So you don't spend a lot of time troubleshooting that? And just
So Bobby can probably answer. I don't spend any time thinking about it. and I'm probably the best test case, or one of the better test cases, because I'm in literally every building, every floor in every building during the day.
How many SSIDs do you run?
So there's one main one, and then we have other ones that give us presence in other countries. So as we rolled out to Brazil and Mexico, we have an SSID to support those, but those are locked down to some certain floors, just where we had to do testing.
another question here. Are you using Aruba Networks Workspace?
We are not.
Okay. How do you handle voice over IP and E911?
I mean,
I didn't invent this.
Yeah, no,
that's a good one
That's
because
a
if
good
you're,
question.
that's I've had customers that the reason they couldn't make the switch to pure wireless play is E911 services and trying to locate where that handset is from where the call is. So maybe I think to add into to frame that question is, what type of building are we talking about that the Netflix offices are? What's your size that you have in these facilities that you're supporting? Are we talking a 20,000 square foot small office, or are we talking 200,000 square foot, multiple floor
We're still talking
buildings?
campuses, like multiple
Yeah, so
buildings.
the Los Gatos campus is a total of 5 buildings. I don't have the total square footage. As far as voice over IP, I mean, people still have desk phones, and Bobby can probably talk about.
So that's your 1% wired users is your desk phone.
We've got desk phones, and then, to be honest with you, everybody uses their cell phone. We don't have a really great, 911 strategy around cell phones, but that's what people care about.
Run towards the burning flame, call it good.
There's phones that usually placed.
Every conference room has a phone that has a wired Ethernet cable into it.
Are you looking to migrate that And like we heard from Microsoft Link this morning, is there a strong push to get away from desk phones in your environment as well, and maybe
So
try
we're
to get
desk
down
phone
to
optional. So I think
0.5%?
the main people that use desk phones are probably our internal recruiting team and probably our legal team. Those are probably the primary use cases. But otherwise, we're a mobile phone company.
Interesting.
Now, another good question here. You've been talking about U.S. stuff. How is it different managing the U.S. headquarters as opposed to a global Wi-Fi deployment?
The good news is we are only a U.S. company based. So we have
So you don't have that problem.
we don't have that problem.
Well, that's easy.
That's a benefit of using cloud and SaaS. We don't need presence everywhere.
How about this? You're going all wireless. How about Apple TVs? How about printers?
So there's still cases where devices are plugged into the network, smart TVs, other devices, Apple TV.
Yeah, you mentioned phones.
Apple TV, unfortunately, doesn't connect to our wireless authentication, and then printers still have.
Yeah,
Ethernet
won't keep the certificate, will it?
Another question. Someone said, do you have a single number for your employees on their cell phone, or do they have dual numbers for the phone and their desk phone?
That's configurable. So if you do have a desk phone, you can have it forward to your mobile phone or use Google Voice or some service like that.
Interesting.
So you said that the Apple TVs are plugged in because they don't support ETLS. This is what I think you're getting at. To go back to your point of supporting any device, no exceptions, what if the device doesn't support ETLS? Is there just, you chuck up a second SSID that just has a PSK? How are you, and then how are you identifying that?
Sure. So for Apple TV, I think we're working on a solution to solve that, and I can't remember the technical details.
Okay.
But I think that's one of the small edge cases that currently doesn't. We can attach it to our guest network, and then proxy it back.
Really, seeing as your service is based on the cloud, if the device is connected up into the guest network, it's going to get anything, because you're going to run into that same issue on gaming consoles as well that can't do TLS. And you're not really developing on that. You're just trying to see if your product works on it.
Yeah, we're trying to get the experience and see what the UI looks like on each device.
Is it 100% certificate based with the TLS that you're using, or do you have some use cases for like PSKs or open networks with captive portals that you're using?
I think it's 100% TLS.
Wow. What do you do for guests that come in the network then, say people from outside or vendors that are visiting your campus?
So there's an open guest network currently, and so ClearPass will help us with some of those challenges.
Fascinating.
Cool.
You were very refreshing. I'll have you know.
You're welcome to come check out the campus anytime.
Really? How about this afternoon?
If you give me a ride back, I'm good.
Yeah, I got a huge truck.
Yeah, we can fit Blake into the back.
Yeah, I think we can fit the whole.
So always pick on Blake.
I am always the bad end here.
What are you guys running for your certificate infrastructure?
So we're looking at implementing our own internal PKI using EJBCA, which is an open source framework.
And how many total employees?
Total is roughly 1,300 spread across a small office in DC, Los Gatos, and Beverly Hills.
So, are you committing to another season of Arrested Development?
The first one hasn't even, or the season 4 has not aired yet.
That's funny.
You already want more.
That question's still valid, though.
Yeah. No. Man, I got to tell you, I'm excited about that.
If you can get the cast to commit, most likely we would.
Well, it's good because I got them all right here on my phone, so I'll just call them up and see if they're interested.
Someone speaker.
Yeah, put them on speaker. Yeah. Wi-Fi.
It sounds like you're using a lot of, non-traditional software packages, non-traditional ways of
source.
methodologies of doing this. I'm just curious because when I was in corporate America, I was always trying to use open source wherever I could, and because you can tweak it more to your liking. I'm just curious, do you guys contribute code back into the projects you use? Like you mentioned Cacti and MRTG, if you're finding something that totally is stupid and why are they doing it this way and you should do it this way, are you guys providing code back in, or are you kind of keeping that some to your secret sauce?
No, so overall, Netflix as a company is a huge open source. If you go to our GitHub page, you'll see a bunch of open sourcing tooling outside of my teams. Netflix.github.com. Check that out.
Did they do Chaos Monkey?
As we tweak tools and work on tools, I definitely want us to contribute back to open source.
I'm definitely going to start playing on this and see what's going on.
Cool.
How often do you run Chaos Monkey?
Through the sites that some of my teams manage, I think Chaos Monkey runs through whatever we opted in at. So, these are corporate
problem?
technology. So, 1,400 users is like Chaos Monkey, I think.
Yeah, how many access points? Maybe I missed it. Are you using to support that many?
Bobby, you have
Say
the.
it.
I don't have any staff.
Do you have any idea? 2 or 3 access points?
At least.
Someone asked if you're hiring Wi-Fi engineers.
They don't need it. It just
Absolutely.
works.
Contact me on LinkedIn.
No, it is actually refreshing. So I'm not a Wi-Fi guy. Surprise.
Where's your cable?
I'm using
We
Wi-Fi.
cut the umbilical cord, at least
I
on
just
that aspect of
don't
it.
care about it like the rest of the people in this room
likes
quite as
fiber
much. I'm a
channel.
storage guy, and I totally agree with you on the idea that it's much more important to focus on who has access to what than it is to try to build an eggshell around things and then, let people. I don't know. It really is exciting to hear about this kind of environment, because this is, to me, it seems like where things are going more than, building ever more secure Wi-Fi access and trying to kick off, rogue access points and all this kind of stuff. Just secure the data instead of trying to secure the network. I love that idea.
So you mentioned security and Wi-Fi. Like there was some reason that wired Ethernet is more secure than Wi-Fi.
Isn't that the attitude, though? I mean, people
But-
assume that anybody who's got access to the building is therefore is magically trusted in a wired environment. That's absolutely not true. I wouldn't trust any of these
Actually,
guys with my wired network.
I trust our wired network much less than I trust our wireless, because
Yeah.
it's very easy
Agreed.
to put a device in a corner attached to it, which is why I want us to implement NAC.
Yeah.
That's why we're saying you're refreshing, because you're an example of what we've been preaching for a long time.
So you have actually, it sounds like you've actually implemented or are going to implement NAC on the wired connections?
Yeah, so NAC will be part of the Zero Trust initiative. So we haven't implemented it. I want to.
Have you started demoing?
So
any products?
how I think about it is our wired ports might as well be on the outside of our building,
That makes a lot of sense.
because it's pretty. Physical security, you can tailgate into most companies pretty easily.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And your wireless ports too. I mean, wireless might as well be on the outside of your building. I mean, it literally is.
It is.
I was actually consulting with a company who ended up having somebody do the parking lot Wi-Fi exploit of their company.
If they had security,
while I was there,
It wouldn't matter.
and it was a serious issue, but it was because they just didn't assume that it was wide open.
Which is why you should care about the data, because there's always
Yeah.
some way to get around that, and there'll be something that gets exposed. So if you're relying on securing the Wi-Fi access points or the hard port, Ethernet ports, there'll be some loophole somewhere, and then you're not secure. It's like password-based authentication.
Yeah. Well, and as a lot of the, I mean, it's getting beyond the scope of Wi-Fi, but I mean, there's not just Wi-Fi and wired, there's also the WAN, and people are going to get through your firewall. I mean, especially in this day when people are, spear phishing into, people. When I say people, I mean a certain group, getting into all sorts of companies across, across the world, really. And there again, I mean, if you're not focusing on the data, if you're just focusing
because
on
there
the
is
network,
no firewall for
they're gonna
most
get in.
companies anymore.
Yeah, well, there might as well not be.
Because there's always something. I mean, I think Sony unfortunately found this out, that something gets exposed or outside of the firewall, and then you're not secure.
Yeah.
That's what happened with Blake's there.
Yeah, I think that pretty much the conclusion of most hackers nowadays is if you've got a determined enough person, they're going to be able to hack into no matter what security you set up anyway. So you might as well just think about security over everything.
Which is really about audit logs and correlation in real time, and having the proper defense in depth and alerting mechanisms.
Are you using a SIM for correlation?
We use Sumo Logic to send data to, and we're working with them on correlation queries and engines.
Cool.
For the NAC solution that you said you hope to have, do you want to use Aruba, a different product? Have you guys thought about it at all?
We haven't started any evaluation of that.
Another question from the interwebs. How do you place access points? Wall mount, ceiling mount, both? Do you run site surveys actively as you deploy?
We did an extensive site survey. We mounted them in the ceilings. And we run tests probably monthly to determine hotspots and density.
What tools are you using? Are you just using the Air Magnet Surveyor or Echo House Survey when you're checking that, or
Whatever Aruba recommended. So
what did Aruba recommend?
What do you guys recommend?
It depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's Sam when we need him?
What we got? Air Magnet, Ekahau, Camelsoft. There's
Yeah.
not a lot of.
we spent a lot of time when we did the
Zabe
rollout
would
of
say
Aruba
yes.
to make sure that we had proper placement, and then there was some tweaking after the fact for the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't think we've made any wholesale changes since.
Do you have a fixed client device to AP ratio you use, or is it based on size?
It's really about density in the area, so we know where there's more devices and more people typically, or where the heavily trafficked are.
Well, he's just knocking it down here, guys. Nobody can stop this guy. We gotta beat him.
What's the square root of no? He'd probably get it right, and then I'd look.
It's the firing line.
This is awesome.
We're trying.
Well,
It is. It's interesting.
you running out of gas? Is that what I'm
I think
hearing?
so.
All right. How about online? Do we have any more?
George wants to know if you guys conduct tablet Wi-Fi testing with their Netflix app. What are you implying there, George?
Man, I use the Netflix app all the time.
Yeah, I only use it on tablets, so.
Yeah.
Has no pretty much online. Use it too. Apple TV and tablet.
All right.
The Sandvine report showed that tablet usage, even in the home for watching Netflix, is extremely high.
Yeah, I believe that.
I've actually, I actually have taken to just using my iPad when I'm traveling at hotels and stuff instead of the hotel TV. I'll just watch Netflix on my iPad.
The new family dinner is a family of 4 sitting around watching content on their own iPads.
It's the only way to keep a 4-year-old happy while the dinner is getting.
Let me tell you, my daughter.
I'm glad to
is
hear
in
someone
love
else has the
with
same
Netflix.
parenting techniques.